Hello, welcome back to Her Shift. It's been a while, bit of a hiatus. This is a space which is all about the journey of being her and changing your beliefs, changing your life, so you can have a goddamn better one. And who would not want that? I am your host, Anna, and I apologise for the considerable break, but I've got a few updates, and the last time I was on here was about to have a scan because everything was just not working, and I didn't know whether it was PMDD, whether it was menopause, whether it was something more sinister, whether it was endometriosis, let's call it that, whether it was chronic stress, whether it was everything. And I think that's the thing, is we always have to pinpoint whatever's going on in our lives. It has to be down to one thing. And I'm confident in saying I don't think it's ever down to one thing. It's always multi-layered, multifaceted, and that's okay. So first off, I'm going to say, how have you all been? How has your hibernation season been if you've been in the UK? In England, in the northeast, it has been a very grim February. It was worse than January. It rained every day. I think we had a actual weather record breaking, where it was wet every single day. It was also freezing. It was a dark time. My year has started off slowly, and it started to build momentum. I now have a few answers to what's going on in my life, and I'm also going to share with you what the results of my scan were, which was a condition that I had never heard of. And I think I'm going to pronounce it right when I say it's adenomyosis, which apparently is like the evil twin of endometriosis. I don't think I can't pronounce these because of my braces. I think it's just, maybe I just struggle with the osis bit. Anyway, so adenomyosis. I went for my scan, and I think, as I previously said, obviously I felt like I was fatigued, I wasn't sleeping, I had loads of menopausal symptoms on the top of the PMDD symptoms. I was not in a good place, let's say. I was not in a good place mentally, and I wasn't in a good place physically. I put on 2 stone in weight. I just feel so sluggish, I feel so tired, I just want to rest all the time. I've lost my ability to multitask, focus, obviously create a podcast, and I've never needed to rest so much in my life. When I went for the scan, it was an internal scan because, as I mentioned, I'd previously been feeling so fatigued and so bloated and so tender. My abdomen was so sore, things were really uncomfortable, and the main thing was this need to go to the loo to wee constantly. And so I actually marked it down. So one evening, from the time that I have put the dishwasher on and gone to bed, to the actual morning when I wake up, I'd gone to the toilet 17 times. Now, obviously, when I'm going to the loo, because I feel full and I can't sleep, but obviously because I'm going to the toilet so much, there's no fluid to come. I can't wait. There's nothing there. And I was feeling back pain and bloatedness, and I was just like, what is going on? Anyway, so I had this scan, and it was an internal scan. And I thought, I'll just share a little bit more information because, things that we know. The woman asked me when I was laid on the couch, certain dates, what's going on with me, when was my last period. Now, mine are all over the shop at the minute. On average, so about every 20 days, which is really, it's just massively effing with my life, if I'm honest, because obviously, the PMDD windows are feeling okay now, down to about 2 days in a cycle. And then I'm having obviously more bleeds per year on average because I'm bleeding every 20 days. And then when I do bleed, it's really strange in that it's really heavy. It's really heavy for 2 days. And we're talking just had a baby heavy, when everything is shedding. I'm sorry if you're, thinking about your lunch. It's bit clotty, let's say. And then on the 3rd or 4th day, it's just barely there. It's like you could go to a panty liner. It's nothing. It's so weird. It almost feels like it's not fully coming away. Anyway, and I said, I was actually due my period 10 days ago, I said to her when I was laid on the couch. obviously not concerned about pregnancy or anything like that at this age. I just thought it was another sign of the menopause. I thought they're going to start to peter out. And literally, just as I said, but I am late and I am due, I started bleeding right there and then on the couch with the internal scan where it was. And for some reason I really profusely apologised and so I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And she's like, obviously she works in gyno. She was just like, I see this every day. That's fine. But I was just like, I'm so sorry. And that's when I found out that things were different in that she said, the lining of your womb is considerably thicker than it should be. So therefore, your whole uterus is inflamed, and which is what it feels like, if I'm quite honest. And it's likely that it's therefore pushing on your bladder, because the bladder apparently is in front of the uterus. So if it's pushing on your bladder, it's a bit like, I guess, when you're pregnant and the baby sits on your bladder and it feels like you always need a wee. So it's a similar thing. And I said, right, okay, so what is this? And she's like, okay, so it's the evil twin of endo. So with I can't say it, I'm so sorry. So with endo, the lining of the womb grows outside the uterine lining, and it can go into different organs, different parts of the body, obviously around there, and it can create a real painful mess, and often requires surgery to sort it. It can be an absolute blighter if you're trying to get pregnant, and it's just one of those things that unfortunately women have to put up with. There's like no known cure other than surgery. It's absolute bitch, and it's one of those things where you think if men were suffering from such thing, it would have been rectified years ago. Anyway, don't get me started on the feminist rant, although I might, because I have just did anyone see that report the other day where so the American hockey team won gold, the men's American hockey team? Yeah, I love the Olympics, by the way. Absolutely love the Olympics. Summer or winter, I absolutely love it. It's just lovely to have on in the background while you're doing your work, and I just love seeing these sports that you don't see every day, and the skill and the passion, and yeah. And anyway, so the men's hockey team won gold, and apparently it was the first time in 57 years, so it was a big hoo-ha. The American women's hockey team, since it was introduced, I think it was introduced in the early 90s, they have medalled constantly, and they had also won this year, and they've won it many times before. And the Orange one phoned the men's team to congratulate them and invite them to the White House, and then made a joke that I'll have to invite the women, of course, too. I think he said girls. I'll have to invite the girls, otherwise I might be impeached. It's just really... I mean, never mind the whole files shit, but but what really bugged me with that is that that's a chance for those guys to go, nah, we ain't going. But they went. They went. The women didn't. And it's just one of those things where they've been doing it for years, and it's like not celebrated because it's considered not like it's the notion we're not as good as you, we're not good enough anyway. Let's get back to my let's get back to gynecology and away from American politics, which it's not a good place to get your mindset. Anyway, so I understood what endo was, and I'd heard about it. I'd never heard of adenomyosis, and it is different in that it is contained within the uterus, and it's basically that the uterine lining, so when you're meant to have your period, it doesn't fully shed. It actually grows into the muscle of the uterine lining. It becomes extremely inflamed, tender, thicker. It's not fully shedding. It just grows on itself until it becomes a mass. There is no known cure other than obviously having a hysterectomy. It is recommended that you have the Mirena coil fitted because that can thin the lining of the womb. It was just one of those things where I was like, I've never heard about it, which does surprise me because obviously being in the PMDD world, you do know a lot about gyno, you know a lot about, women's bodies and women's conditions. So it did surprise me, but I'd never heard of it And then obviously once I started Googling it, and then my algorithm took hold of it, and then it started showing me more posts on adenomyosis. And it was fascinating, but also the point that so many women live with this and other conditions too. And we just put up with it and we just accept it. And it was just one of those moments again where, okay, so I've got PMDD, I'm definitely perimenopausal, and I've got adenomyosis now. But I feel that if I go for a hysterectomy, which I think is what my body is pointing towards, I feel like I'm doing myself a disservice in that I'm giving up on that part of my body which has given me 2 children, which has been sort of part of my life, which does make up my identity as a woman and a PMDD survivor. But is it time to call it out and go, yeah, it's not working. It's like maybe thank it for its service and say, but you're causing me, I'm not living well. I'm going to be quite honest. So I don't know what to do about that. I am going to go, I'm having a referral. That was interesting as well. So obviously in the UK, it took me to, even though I was in chronic pain and I was really stressed and I was worried that it was the C word, it was like something like 5 weeks to get a scan. And then now I've got a referral to the gyno, I got a list of 3 different hospitals, I got clinics that I could go to. When I clicked on the first one, the earliest appointment was for December 2026, and obviously this was back at the beginning of February. And do you know, like my younger self or someone might go, well, that's what's available, and clicked on it. But I was like, I'm not having that. I was just one of those moods. And I clicked through all the other options available, and the last clinic actually had something available in March, so I've gone for that. But like, wow, again, that the fact that if we stay silent and if we put up with this, which I think a lot of us do as a species, then that's what happens. We accept it. I was curious to know how many people do suffer from this. Obviously these multi-layered things, these are you more likely to have this if you have PMDD? Are you more likely to have poor mental health? And I just wanted to know other people's stories and hear about such things and your journey with it, your plight. When did you finally get seen? When did you know about endometriosis? What has been your experience? Because I think that's one of those things that with Her Shift, it's always that community feel, and if we hear from others and we hear their stories, and we just don't feel as so alone. I know that's certainly been the case in that if I could put down like the last year, and I don't want to blame and go, oh, the reason I've got this and the reason I've got this is because of this and this, but I think so if adenomyosis is chronic inflammation, which I think I feel throughout my body, if I'm quite honest, I've just been having more stress in the past 2 years than I have ever known was on a level of existence. Now, I like a bit of stress. I am a stress head in that sense, as in professionally, I have a proper hold my pint moment. I said that to my lobster, actually. I said I go into my best zone level when things get really full on. I feel like the background noise disappears behind me and I go, hold my pint. But that doesn't apply to me because I can't even hold a pint with one hand, not with these nails. So he's like, yeah, no, hold my Stanley cup. Yeah, okay, that might be better. But I do like to function on a certain level of stress because it gets to a point when the noise and the chaos fades away and what's important stands out, and I become extremely task orientated. And I'm particularly good, I've realised, when it actually is not just on me, it's when it involves the outcome will affect other people. I'm very much like, right, I'll sort this. Like we're doing a lot of stuff at the minute with financing, mortgages, things like that. And I'm just like, I guess, get into the zone where I'm so on it. And I think part of it is because if you've been through personal stuff, as a lot of women do with our own health, mental health, is, like just problems with the children that you feel helpless with, things like that, that actually doing beige admin shit, you just suddenly go, hold my Stanley cup, this is easy. At least that's how I find it anyway. I find that a lot of women who, particularly PMDD survivors, are very attuned to getting their shit sorted in other areas of their life, particularly when it affects others. Anyway, so and it was just like looking back and realizing that this is obviously these layers that are going on with me are so due to what's been going on in my life and the way I've been living. And I've obviously said in the last 6 weeks since I did a podcast episode, I have named it and I put it online that I am not doing any more makeup work. After the end of this year, I am not taking any more bookings. It was quite it was quite an emotional and sad post, and I got to do one of those montages with the old pictures, and it just really made me smile and just think, God, look at me there. It feels like a lifetime ago, but yeah, it feels so not so long ago. And just me saying that and just saying, I can't do this anymore. Obviously, doing bridal makeup is one of the most intimate and special services you can do within the wedding industry. However, it's also the least flexible. You know, if life gets in the way, I've never let anyone down and I don't intend to. But with what's happening with my family, with my son, with my own health, I just was waking up every morning and I was not in a good place. I'm going to be quite honest with you. It was like every day I just need to get through the day. As in, if I can function, if I can unload the dishwasher, if I can have a shower, we'll be okay. I'd stop going to the gym because I couldn't even fathom the 25-minute drive to the gym. And it wasn't like I was going to do masses of exercise, even just to chill in the lovely spa. I just felt like my whole life has recently been on pause and I've had to give up myself. I've lost myself because of everything going on. And I think as well, there's a lot of women in my position who we really struggle to firstly admit that we're struggling, but also then ask for help. And I know as well that I always want to put it down to one thing, and if I can just get this one thing sorted, life will get better. And it rarely is. It's rarely down to one thing. But all I know is like the way I was living in pain, sleep deprived, extremely depressed, unhealthy, unfit, with a level of stress that was making my hair fall out. How does that make me good for anything? How does that make me a good mum? How does that make me a good partner? How does that make me a good podcast host? How can I help other people when I'm not even running on empty? Like I'm burnt out. Like I am gone. And it really occurred to me yesterday when we'd had some really bad news in my world, like one of my friends who has just gone through the worst thing ever. Like I'm not going to talk about it, but it's all I can say is like the worst thing ever that can happen to someone has happened. Instantly my perspective changed to a level of, wow, what the hell are we complaining about? And then I started to beat myself up. And my lobster came round and just gave me held space and also made a point of going, you know, about we're not comparing. It's like, yes, there are certain levels of stress and what's going on, but it doesn't invalidate what you're going through anywhere else. Yes, it's good to have a perspective and it's good to have grounding and it's good to go, right, shake myself off and move on. But there'll always be someone going through something different, and there'll always be someone going through something different to you that you consider far worse. That does not invalidate what you're going through. And as I hear myself saying this right now, I'm only saying because my lobster said it to me. And it was lovely. I got like a really tight cuddle and just got to talk about how I was feeling about everything. It's one of those, you know, you've got a good one when they're like, they know they're not there to problem solve. They're just there to listen. They're just there to hold space. And if you have to communicate to someone in your life that that's what you need, please do it. I found it the most comforting and soothing thing. Certainly more than sertraline or fluoxetine or supplements. It's just having that moment of someone else seeing you. And I think that was the point of the podcast, wasn't it? It was always to go, look, there is always someone else going through this. We're all in this together. We see each other. We hear each other. We can hold space for each other. And if you're a tactile, cuddly person, I will hug you through the audio. And if you're not, that's fine. So it amuses me with my my son who's got sensory issues, and I am such a cuddly person. I am such a cuddly mum, and I recently found out for all these years that he's only been doing cuddles to appease me. When I was really upset the other day, and I said, "Can I have a cuddle?" And he was like, "Do I have to?" And I'm never going to force it. And it did make me smile, as if to say, like, I love the fact that he's got that autonomy in him, and the fact that he's like, "No, I don't want to." But, and also the fact that if he did cuddle me, I'd know that he was only doing it to please me, which is sweet. But, nobody wants half-ass cuddles. But yeah, just having that, what's the word? Validation that we all need. So I think this is more like a catch-up episode, and just say, look, this is what's been going on. I'm moving away from the makeup business. I'm spending a lot more time with my family, but I'm also spending a lot more time on myself. I want to gradually change my habits for the better. And I want to lower my stress, and I want to lower inflammation. I want to look at all the options regarding the adenomyosis. Some big stuff coming up there, definitely, but I just want to be well informed and have a well-rounded view. And yeah, just get back into the flow of doing weekly episodes more. And sadly as well, that over the last few months I've had loads of people get in touch wanting to come on and do interviews, and when I first hear from them, I'm like, yes, that would be amazing, but also knowing that I have not had the mental capacity, I've not had the bandwidth recently to be able to do it. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to start with someone who I think is going to be really nice to me. Maybe if they can help co-host the episode, because I just don't feel I've got the bandwidth to carry it right now. And that applies to everyone out there listening. If you would love to, if you want to come on as a guest host, if you want to take over for a week, oh God, I would love that. If you want to take over an episode on any subject that you think is applicable to you, and make me a cup of tea, and I'll sit there, I'll get involved, I'll chip in. God, that would be nice. I'm all for like handing over the reins occasionally. This is not meant to be a one-woman show. This is meant to be hers, and yeah, all of us together. So I've just like got my notes down, going, have I covered this? Have I covered that? I think we're all up to speed. Thank you for all your kind words recently as well, and thank you for anyone who's like checked in and asked if I'm okay. I really, really appreciate it. I know that myself and others, we do take these hiatuses whenever things just get a bit too much, or life is happening too quickly around us. So I really, really do appreciate that, and I want to like check in on all of you as well and go, how's it all going? How are we feeling in February? How have the last few weeks been? Do you think PMDD is seasonal? Of course it bloody is. What are your experiences with adenomyosis? What are your views on having surgery as, I wouldn't say a cure, but I don't know, surgery? Yes, no, pros, cons, let me know. I really would love to hear insights. And the thing is as well, when we're online, I read a lot of the comments, and I've said this before, like, I am not a commenter. I'm not a lurker. It's just like, I find that there's only such a small minority of people on social media, if you take the stats, that actually will comment. So really, it's not really giving a massively broad view. And a lot of people who want to comment, but it's just not in them to do it, or they would rather privately message, that is absolutely fine. I am definitely one of those myself. I'm really big on the voice notes. Oh yeah, I'm one of them. So, and I've had conversations with you guys in the past where you text me and I voice note you back. If you want to do that, that is absolutely fine. Anyway, shall we just get this moving forward? This is where we're at. This is what's gone on. Let's move forward. Let's keep going. Let's talk about being her. Let me know your stories. Let me know your views. Let me know what's been going on with you. And as always, if you want to message me, please do. My inbox is always open. And I just want to say, I am thinking about you all, and yeah, we're going to get there. So as always, please take care of yourself. Please keep going. You are doing amazing. You are stronger than you think. And as always, sending all my love.